Hi, sir.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Okay,
Good.
I'm just here to check if speakers are doing okay. So ideally, this breakout session will be starting at 2:25. So till then, we just want to make sure like everyone has the screen working, mic working. So I'm just gonna come again to check the other breakout sessions as well, and I'll be back.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, Samuel.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
I'm just here to check if everything is okay. Samuel, are you sharing your screen by any chance or no?
Yeah, I will effectively. So I have my presentation here, so I guess I'll just have to tap on the button
This,
share screen and I'll have the access
yeah,
when my time will
yeah.
be.
I would just suggest till the time we start the presentations, if you can just try it, if your screen share is working. Sometimes we might have those
Okay,
difficulties. If you can just test it out.
okay, yeah, just give me a second here. I'm just gonna make a few changes on my setup.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And Isak, is everything working on your end? Okay. Did you get a chance to attend the main panel or you just joined?
No, I just joined now. Coming from other calls with clients today, it's
Oh.
kind of crazy.
So other thing that you can notice is like, on top you see this I and 7 on top of open screen. So that means currently 7 people are looking at us and only 3 people are on the screen. So in that way you can have an idea if there are people who is on the screen. So hi everyone who's just looking at us. You can message us on the chat to let us know who you are. Um,
So I'm gonna try to share my screen. Tell me if you're
sounds good.
able to see it.
Yeah,
I
I'm able to
guess
say.
I guess so because I'm seeing it myself. So
Yeah, yeah.
all right,
Okay, awesome.
gonna
So I'm gonna go check other breakout session as well, and I'm gonna be back. So we'll have more speakers joining both of you. So I'll be back soon. See you soon. Bye.
all right, bye bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Simran from Montreal Tech. Sorry, Zach, I'm back. Hi, Rahul. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Simran. Nice to meet you.
You too. Alejandro. Hi, Toby.
Hi there.
So we have everyone except Alejandro. So we'll have Alejandro joining soon. In the meantime, if you are sharing your screen, do you want to just try the screen share if it's working for all of us? So we can try it one by one just in case.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Sounds good.
How is that?
Yeah, it's working. Maybe try if you can try the slideshow version as well, because I had in one of the room that slideshow version was not working for them, so they had to share the full screen. Okay, awesome, it's working.
Great.
Rahul, Toby, Sebastian, do you want to try?
Sure.
Okay.
Could you confirm if my screen is?
Yeah. Awesome. And Toby and Sebastian?
Yes, I'll just try it. It's Toby. Seems to be working.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Good.
Sure, I'll just try now. Okay, 1 second. I'm having a bit of an issue. I'll fix this.
Hey, Julia. Julia, did you join through 2 different accounts on Hopin?
Probably.
I think so. I'm going to go on the back and add the both accounts as moderation, because I just saw that this particular account is not moderated. So it's okay. So guys, if I'm not here, if you see Julia on the moderation panel below, so just accept her in.
Thank you.
Just showing my screen. Is that working? Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, everything is good. Alejandro is just going to join. I'm going to go check other breakout sessions as well. Let me know if anything. You can, we have Evgeny as well.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Evgeny. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks.
I'm hearing a bit of echo, Evgeny, from your side.
Oh, are you? Okay. Let's see.
Is it just me, or is anyone else? Okay. Maybe Evgeny. Let's try again.
How is it now? Is it different? Still the same.
Maybe it will be better if you can try with earphones, so that way it might work.
I can try to find some earphones.
I think it got worse. Can you make something, Evgeny? Let's see.
Simran, I don't think he can hear it.
Okay. Let me see.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Alejandro.
Sorry for making you wait. We just went off the schedule for about 5 minutes. Can you listen, everybody? Hello. So
Yeah.
thank you, everybody, for being here. Julia, Evgeny, Isaac, Samuel, Sebastian, Toby, Rahul, and I think that we're missing John still, but he might join us in a little bit longer. So thank you very much for joining on this occasion for the breakout session presented by Lactalis. I'm going to tell you what the agenda is going to look like. It's very, very simple today. We're going to invite first Julia from Lactalis to present what the challenge, the industry challenge that they have, what the one that they're looking the solutions for. Then after that will be followed by the startups. We don't have any researcher invited today, so we're going to wrap it up with the startups. And then when we finish, we will engage into the brainstorming around the specific need of Lactalis. So for this part, it would be highly appreciated that you stick to the time allotted for each one of you. In the case of the industry partner, there is an activity. There is the pitch, the reverse pitch. You have about 4 minutes to do the reverse pitch. You may use slides in order to present what you have to present. Then for the startups, please stick to the 3 minutes that you have. You already have the structure that is suggested. You don't have to follow it. You can do another type of presentation. Just focus on your technological solutions. Questions, answers, we might leave them for the time of the brainstorming session around the problem that we want to solve. And also, I want to tell you that today we have two special guests. Evgeny Lokipudis, I'm hoping I pronounced well your last name, Evgeny. If not, just forgive me. He's joining from the Digital Supercluster. He will be participating in the brainstorming session as well. And I believe that John from Lactalis Canada will join us at a certain point also during this discussion. So without further ado, I will pass the word to Julia. Julia.
Great, thanks for that introduction. Pull up presentation for you again. Nice to meet you all. That was a very good panel discussion. John set the scene nicely for what we are also going to present to you all. And I am speaking to you on behalf of Lactalis Canada. I do the sustainability and CSR for North America for them. We confirm if you are seeing my full share screen.
Yes, looks good.
Great. So Lactalis Canada, I'll just start with a bit about us and then just dive right into the pretty straightforward yet very difficult challenge that we have for you. So Lactalis Canada is a relatively large dairy processor. We operate across 6 categories of dairy, so everything from yogurt, cheese, milk, butter, cream, and dry products, co-products, and 16 brands that you may have been familiar with. Some of you located, I think, in Canada. Here are some of them. And these 16 brands come out of 30 operating sites and 19 manufacturing facilities that we have across Canada, but a large concentration in the southeast section of Canada. So that's just a very quick who we are if you don't already know. What we are presenting to you today, the mission is a very uniquely Canadian challenge. So as I said, I work across US and Canada. So from that background, we'd like to develop a platform or technology partner that can help us as a dairy processor to better report on and inform our carbon emissions that occur at the farm level, so farm level dairy production. As a solution, the product platform technology has to work within the existing Canadian regulatory environment. So it's going to be a very difficult challenge. It has to have defined success factors, ideally that are aligned with the same standards that we have in the US, so that we can compare and use similar measurement methodologies. And it should be able to be implemented quickly enough that we can impact the 2030 timelines and targets for our emissions reductions. Why am I talking about dairy processing when we are a processor, not the farm? That is because as a processor, we consider our scope 3 emissions the largest contributor to our overall emissions pie. It's well over the majority. And right now, the best available information, John hinted at this in the panel, is a aggregate level national data. So yes, we know what the average is, the 0.94 kilograms of carbon per liter of milk, but that doesn't tell us much more about where we get our milk from regionally, how we can impact that depending on where it comes from. We do know that we're better than the global average, but we really don't have better information than this to work with today. So we can go to the next slide. In the US, the DFA, which is our equivalent of the DFC, Dairy Farmers of Canada, is committed to a reduction in carbon aligned with the Paris Agreement. We don't have that in Canada. In the US, we can directly engage farmers to collaborate on their data collection process and on-farm practice. We don't have that in Canada. So what we want to potentially drive with you is a solution that's specifically tailored to the Canadian regulatory environment where we don't have those direct access points. And we are wondering if geospatial data is robust enough to be paired with a model for dairy farm emissions, such that we can actually take that national average and drill it down to something more particular that is regional at the very least, or maybe we can do better. I'll let you tell me. What we're willing to do in exchange, or the way we're willing to partner, is along with other competitors who might have the same challenge. So there are other dairy processors that have similarly limited access to this data with similar ambitions on carbon emissions mitigation targets. We're happy to partner with competitors and yourselves in order to better answer this challenge. We are happy to share any relevant internal expertise, so anything to do with dairy, we have the information on that. And we are even happy to review opportunities to invest if the solution makes sense for us. That is the challenge that we present to you.
Thank you very much, Julia. So the next part, we are going to invite the startups to pitch. There's not a particular order that we set for all of you. It's just 5, so we're going to be okay with that part. If any of you have any restriction on time that you cannot stay as for this long, just let me know and I'll be glad to invite you to pitch first. If not, then we'll invite in a particular order that's we're going to start with SenseGrass. Then after SenseGrass, we will go with Aquantics. After Aquantics, we'll go with Crisa Labs. And then finally, we will end up with Agrio. That's for startups. Then we have a scale up here invited. That's Sebastian Engelman representing Terramora. Then at the end of all the rest, Sebastian, you'll be invited to also pitch, after which we can engage in the questions, answers, and the brainstorming. So just remember, you have 3 minutes to do your pitch.
Perfect. So Alejandro, could I go next?
Yes, you're next, Rahul.
Awesome. Thanks, Alejandro and Julia and other panel members. Could you confirm if my screen is visible?
I believe that each one of you had the ability to see in a bigger way the screen by either clicking double, or if not, click on the right side of the mouse. There is like 3 dots, and the 3 dots, they will allow you to do a full screen, so you can look at what the presenter is presenting.
Awesome. Let me know when it can get started.
You can go ahead.
Awesome. Hello, everyone on the panel. I'm Rahul, CTO and co-founder at SenseGrass. At SenseGrass, we are primarily solving 3 key big problems in agritech. That's excessive fertilizer usage, soil degradation, and poor crop yield, which together is kind of impacting the carbon footprint produced by agritech space. What we are building is world's first farm operating system. We improve crop yield by 20% while reducing the fertilizer consumption or pesticides consumption by 40%. We use techniques, and this has been adapted by top 5 agro corporates. What we essentially do is capture information from satellite data, analyze historic information from our knowledge partners and a few other public information sources. And we have our own set of hardware, which is a soil probe and a rover. In combination, we generate over 100 different data points per plot area and understand the crop cycle health in real time. Now, that data is again further processed in our AI servers, where we give this information to agro corporates, and that in turn converts into actionable insights to farmers who actually implement these actionable insights on the field. So this is a quick view of our application. So you have various parameters across the depth levels within soil, and you also understand what's the healthy range and what's lacking within the crop, within the soil health. And we also measure external parameters, including weather and few other information. We also give actionable insights on how do you improve one particular parameter and maintain the ideal condition for that particular crop. Now, if we have to summarize our product, we primarily enable you to monitor your crop cycle, manage connected devices, maximize yield while reducing the usage of pesticides and fertilizers, which indirectly is reducing the carbon footprint with actionable insights. Our business model is pretty straightforward for corporates. We are completely focused for corporates and free for farmers. Our SaaS pricing starts at $45, and we have a bundle package where it's a combination of our SaaS application plus our IoT device. Our current traction is primarily 78% into agro corporates and few large-scale farmers. Coming to our competition, we are the first in the space for providing AI actionable insights through our agronomist team. Our soil sensor is way superior than our competition because we use optical spectroscopy, which is non-chemical based, and it is auto-calibrating. As rest of the players, we also do GIS analytics along with time series mapping. Coming to our milestones, in next couple of years, we would be launching more of this as an marketplace where additional players can add on top of our application for various other plugins, extensions, and work on top of the data that we generate.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Rahul. Now we're going to pass with the next startup. Just a quick reminder on a couple of things. One, please try to stick to the most possible as to the 3 minutes that you're allocated for your presentation. Second, if you haven't had that in mind, please focus on the problem that we are trying to solve for the industry. So try to accommodate your pitch to how your technology will solve the situation for the industry. So we will continue with Toby Messier from Aquantics.
Hey guys, give me a little second here to share screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, I get started. So hi everyone, my name is Toby. I'm a software developer, a medical doctor, and now I'm full-time coach here with Aquantics AI. Our mission at Aquantics is to develop innovative solutions to help risks into decision-making, and most notably Scope 3 carbon emissions. A little bit about our story. We were originally founded in 2019, and we were actually came out of the financial sector. So we were financed by CDPQ and Jardowski Fraser, two large investment funds in Canada. After that, last year we won actually the Jardins Open Innovation Competition and innovation competition with National Bank of Canada for $100,000. And recently we signed our biggest partnership, all within the financial sector. And now we're starting to branch out also to work with different businesses. So just to explain to you a little bit the challenge that we've been working with for investors, the main question they've been bringing to us is, how can we precisely measure Scope 3 carbon emissions for businesses? And this is something that's been, that made us realize a fundamental problem is that businesses themselves are having a lot of difficulty measuring those carbon emissions. So what we did is we developed a platform that's essentially made for businesses that they can directly enter their assets, enter the different locations where they're operating, and enter information about those assets and get estimations directly based on to tell them how much carbon emissions they're probably doing, give them recommendations, give them industry standards and so on, so they're able to try to adjust, target where their emissions are most likely coming from, try to improve them and engage with their different suppliers to try to reduce them. So a little bit on how that works. So the first thing is you have to enter information about the location, that information about the units of production. So we're talking about dairy production, you can enter the number of cattle, the type of feed, indoor, outdoor, the size of buildings, whatever it is. After that information can be updated either daily, monthly, yearly, whatever the standard is. Typically it's going to be more around quarterly or yearly because that's important for financial disclosure. After that, the system will estimate the Scope 3 carbon to the company because of the suppliers and also offsetting. So there can be negative emissions and positive emissions. And it will aggregate that into essentially different reports that tell you where the emissions are coming from mainly, what you can do about it, and different recommendations. So our platform, as we're working mostly with the financial sector, it's a bank-grade tool. So in terms of security, we've gone through all the different audits and different types of processes possible. We work with a lot of different machine learning techniques, different AI, different Internet of Things captors, a lot of satellite data. That's probably the majority of our inputs. And we were really excited when we heard about the Lactalis Challenge because it's very aligned to what we're doing. It's actually precisely what our platform is designed for, but within the agriculture sector itself. So we're looking forward to continuing the conversation and quickly trying to help you answer the question, what are my Scope 3 emissions and what can I do to reduce those emissions? So thank you.
Thank you very much. That's so much appreciated. Now we will continue with Samuel Fournier from Crystal Labs.
Yeah, can you hear me and see my screen? All right, so my name is Sam. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Crystal Lab. We are a company based here in Montreal, and we have developed a solution to support agronomists and growers in making better decisions with information real-time coming from the soil. So it's not a big secret that we are facing a big challenge with climate change. And one of the biggest opportunities we have as a society to turn back the clock on climate change is to use the soil as a carbon sink. So, this is a practice that is coming, I would call this more mainstream, as a lot of corporate are investing in different carbon markets. And also a lot of CPGs are currently willing to support with premiums all the growers that are able to prove that they have sustainable source products. So the main challenge here is how can we get an actual quantification that is not time and money consuming? So the actual process is pretty long and it costs around $12 to get an incentives of around $15. So the actual structure could not be scaled at large because it does not give enough incentive for people to get into the market. So there's a lot of steps to get all the access to the information, and it doesn't make sense to move forward with the solution. So we really feel that the carbon market carbon quantification is the backbone of carbon farming. So for us, it's the value of a carbon credit is really the confidence we have in how it was generated, and it's impossible to build a trustworthy industry with quantification that is based only on practices. So this is really why we need to focus on the outcome. So there's a lot of different regenerative practices that exist and a lot of different products out there. And as mentioned, people are ready to pay premium and are ready to sell some carbon credits, but we really need to have an accurate, affordable, and scalable carbon quantification solution to unlock the potential of this. This is exactly what we do by bringing the lab directly in the field. So our solution is typically focusing on chemistry and environmental parameters. But what we really want to focus on today is all the health monitoring process that we're able to bring in the field, specifically the soil organic carbon. So with our device, we're able to ground truth, as we were bringing the lab directly in the field, the information for soil organic carbon. And how do we scale all this information through a field? Then we are using remote imagery for 2 different regions. Then first is we are able to prioritize exactly the places where we should be sampling to get an accurate map over a field, but we are also using the remote imagery to scale the accuracy and interpolate point by point the information that we have from our probes. We are also using these remote imagery to support sustainable practices, so we're able to see if people recover cropping, if people are making crop rotation, or if they have a no-tillage policy. So at the end, we're really providing result effectively, and we really want, you can report for this in regards to traceability or for carbon credit, and we really want to work with best-in-class people that really think that carbon farming is the future. So if you have interest in this solution and you really want to make farming more sustainable, please connect with us.
Very much, Samuel, for this nice presentation. Now we will continue with, I think it's time to listen Isaac from Agrio. Thank you, Isaac.
Thanks so much, Alejandro. So hello, everyone. I'm Isaac, co-founder of Agrio. Yeah, I am here today to share a bit about our history and how we can solve this problem with Lactalis in the entire dairy production chain over the globe. So our company, it's almost 2 years old and have received a lot of reconnaissance over the globe, not only in the Americas. And we are present today in the South America, in North America, even in Quebec and Alberta. So with the background of someone who, as a farmer, who have been working on the pasture management and have been working in the financial sector itself, we have certain knowledge on as a technologist, we have a certain knowledge to aggregate in the process and help how to solve the challenge of, in the case of Lactalis, how to do a really remote and global approach for Canada first step, and then on the all regions, of course, of the company, by combining everything about the field, about the real world assets outside the window, as we say in Agri. So how can we bring our existing technology, the Lactalis products, and link that with consumers and bring extra value to the chain? So in our own engine today, we can connect to the operations of Lactalis, receive the location of the farmers or the growers, the producers of dairy today, process with our proprietary Science engine, which aggregates over 520 different variables from satellite, weather, and other things, even soil moisture and other type of infrastructure. We generate all the profile of the place. We can model the accumulation of biomass and other behavior on the place, generate the carbon credit asset itself as digitable, tradable asset, and link that to the farmer side and to the company, bringing even that asset to the market. So with that, we can do measures in carbon aspects and all the process related to that. We have all the entire white label infrastructures, as Julia said in the beginning, to start right away, not a research project for the next 3 years, and be able to supply management level on the company and farmers or agricultural places in the other side and connect to the customer side. With that, we can help Lactalis to acquire data from the farmer side, so even remotely, but link it to that profiles, generate all the decentralized ledger technology and data structure, which can enable trusted and open access to the information, so everybody can verify and guarantee Lactalis has a great product behind. Create all the tradable assets, which is important to monetize that assets for the farmers and build sustainable market over time, and create an open and transparent ecosystem. Imagine every single product with that reference. When a customer take a yogurt, can verify everything. That's right away out of the gate in our existing infrastructure, and link that to the transactional infrastructure to serve this market. With that, our existing partners in the ecosystem, of course, the next steps with Lactalis, but today with companies like OpenAI in the artificial intelligence space, Definity in the distributed computational layer, Hedera in the proof and decentralized ledger. So how do you prove everything? Scale AI in Canada, supporting supply chain improvements. Holt in Canada and Chainlink in more in the Oracle space. We can provide all this infrastructure and move forward, enabling a massive market on the dairy products.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for your presentation. Finally, we will end the tour table of presentations by inviting Sebastian Engelmann from Parmalat. He will be presenting us the solution that they are working on.
Thanks, Alejandro. Sorry about that. Yeah, excited to be here as well. My name's Sebastian. I work at Terramera on the business development team. We're really looking at the commercialization of soil carbon quantification technology. So this presentation, I just want to preface, Julia, it's really going to be about soil carbon. I'm excited to explore about how that fits into the dairy industry, though. To give a bit of background, I know Steve's spoken on the panel a bit. We're a 130-person company, historically focused on plant health, have many patents and raised a lot of money in the past, but recently have raised a large sum of money from Sustainable Development Technology Canada to pursue soil carbon quantification. So the way we see the soil carbon opportunity is really twofold. One, there's a huge market for carbon offset with a lot of companies going at zero and companies interested in this space like yourself. But then secondly, there's also this triple bottom line that's really beneficial of just more profit for farmers, building these resilient communities, and then lastly for the planet, just this opportunity to draw down carbon into the dirt. We see the barrier similarly to what Samuel spoke of at Crystal Labs, just this barrier of lack of cost-effective quantification technology. So when we look at, like you mentioned, the regulatory side of things, there's just not a lot of trust in the current market for soil carbon, and that requires greater accuracy. But then there's also a lack of participation on the farmer side because of the lack of cost-effective quantification on the market. And so traditional soil samples are incredibly costly, and then you have soil sensors, which are not scalable given they're needing to be fixed places along the field. And then we're seeing a lot of companies try to enter this space with drones and aerial imagery, but we don't think that that's substantive in that there's a lack of ability to be able to measure below that 5 centimeters in that 10 to 30 centimeters of depth, where a lot of the roots are storing that carbon. So our solution is really centered around 3 core principles, being really good at measuring soil carbon, being really good at measuring bulk density, and lastly, soil moisture. And really the goal with this is, and we're working in partnerships with a few different companies right now, is to develop spatially continuous soil carbon maps at about plus or minus 30% uncertainty for the first 30 centimeters of depth. To talk a bit about the technology and the approach that we're using a wide spectrum of different technologies, all the way from high cost, high accuracy to low cost, low accuracy. The key is really leveraging machine learning internally in the technology team that we have to be able to get the benefits of that high accuracy technology at the cost of the low accuracy technology. If I do want to talk a bit about one of the pieces of secret sauce that I think Terramera has, which is unique, it's really our computational chemistry team and the ability that we can, I mean, we've seen some developments in the ability to measure some of those core components that I mentioned prior. And that's going to basically enable us to reduce the cost of a sample down to about $5 an acre. Lastly, I want to mention some of the support that we've had both academically and privately. We've been garnering a lot of interest, and we have pilots running in all of the Western provinces from Colombia. So that's been really great. And really at this point, we're just looking to grow our partnerships and work with different farmers and organizations like yourselves that are interested in soil carbon measurements. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for this nice presentation. Now we will jump onto the discussion. Before that part, just let me make, I'm gonna do a very short pause because we have a technical issue right now. We have one of our guests, special guest, Evgeny. Evgeny, if you're listening to me, I really try to fix on the back end the problem with the platform. There's If you can just send us the invite, refresh your screen and send us the request to join us on the conversation. Hopefully this is gonna work now. So meantime, he joined us. Let's start the discussion around the specific need. Julia, you might have questions about the solutions presented. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I'll get into specific questions as well, but a question that is up for anybody to grab is, it sounds like nobody has had any real direct interaction with the dairy industry. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then if not, you expect to be able to navigate that regulatory environment specifically in Canada with ease? Is there a reason why you think so, or not? This is kind of the biggest hurdle that we have. So all the technologies that you guys describe are vetted with, I think, crops, agricultural crop production, which is great, but can we translate that approach and methodology in combination with existing dairy farms? Do you think we can? And is that legal? Can you go put a sensor in a dairy farmer's farm? I don't think so right now. So I'm just open to your whatever you know about that.
Well, let me start from here. Isaac from Agri. So first, I have been working on this space for a couple of years myself as a technologist on the technique for pasture management called voisin. It's a French gentleman who discovered how to maximize the accumulation of carbon and biomass. So that is part of what we have here in terms of for pasture behavior. And all the design is about to not be in the field, because we know there are this type of problems all over the globe. You have cattle producers and dairy producers are not in the very close to the holds and everything else, so it's more remote access. So you need to have this type of leverage and the ability to see everywhere all the time from anywhere. So that's how we build the system itself for pasture management today.
So it's based on, I just have to clarify, it's based on purely models, not remote sensing, not GIS.
Purely models with remote sensing in GIS, yeah.
But
remote sensing without sensors on the field. Sensors are not scalable yet because you don't have internet all over the place. You don't have, so you'll be restricted. So some regions around will have internet connections. Some regions so it's not scalable for global application. Like we have operations in Africa, Brazil, Colombia, and so it's not in our scope of things. Everything for us needs to be global from day one. So that's why we develop everything on this approach.
And so one last follow-up is the modeling, you need some inputs on the description of the farm. So practices, size, you need data, right?
Location, for cattle management, the amount of the number of animals and the location, the boundaries of the crop field,
right,
and the type of management. Okay.
That will also be a challenge, but it's good for me to understand. Anyone else?
Julia, I just mentioned, so for us, it's been more from a financial markets perspective, but we've already covered companies like Nestle and Danone that are very large companies in dairy, and we've been able to model their carbon scope 3 emissions. So that's something that we've done. We haven't gone to, as you said, looking specifically at, putting different sensors or capturing exactly how the cattle is producing, their size and weight and so on. It's been really more looking at satellites, looking at the size of the operations, making estimations remotely to be able to calculate.
And you've done it in Canada for both of those companies?
For both, exactly.
And how, while I have you, how is the tool that you've developed different from the tools that are available from SBTi, for example? They have like a carbon screening tool that sounded very similar to what you do.
What's the one you mentioned? Just like
the Science-Based Target Initiative. They have their free carbon screening scope 3 emissions tool.
Yeah.
Yours is better because of some reason, I'm sure.
What we're going to do is that we'll identify by ourselves different sites of operation. So if you guys don't know where the dairy farmers are, we'll go do the mapping. We'll look at satellites. We'll collect all the third party. We'll tell you all the information that we collect, and we'll get you guys to audit that and basically do due diligence and information that we collect. And after that, we'll show you how we model it and the result. So it's really 100% a third-party process that we can do. And we're able to do that very quickly and be very transparent in terms of what the actual results are. So I'd say being able to do it fast, be able to model accurately, and to be able to do it 100% from third party, you don't really have to get involved very much to actually get the result. So it's a nice thing.
And it's legal.
And it's legal, yes.
Okay. Did anyone else want to speak to just this challenge specific to dairy and whether or not you think you can handle it?
On our side, we don't specifically focus on emission coming from the farm itself, but we mostly focus on quantification directly from the soil. So we're looking to support a transition to every farm. So here in Quebec, we have a lot of our customers that work directly in dairy because that's probably one of the, the biggest part of the industry for farming. And we support these growers in making better practices in regards to their crop, because at the end of the day, crops are serving for the cattle and dairy world. So helping sequester more carbon is a way for us to show more traceability also across product, and is a way also to support more sustainable product that will come out of the value chain, like milk, butter, and all of the rest of the product that you're also able to produce. So we do not focus directly on emission at the, but we are looking forward to support growers in making this better transition and managing their field. And sometimes this could also include livestock monitoring.
So just to follow up on that, are you already partnered with some growers and some specific crops that you have a focus on that maybe tie into the dairy industry that we would take the conversation further on?
Yeah, I know I think it's around 70% of growers here in Quebec are directly in the dairy, and we have networks that cover probably 99% of these. So we have a large footprint with dairy producers here in Quebec.
Okay, I can say that the statistic on impact of feed for dairy is about 30% of the dairy farm emissions. So even if you're not directly involved in dairy, I hear what you're saying. It is still very much rolls up to the total impact. It's almost like a scope three emission. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, go out.
Go ahead, Sebastian, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Terramera ties in very similarly to where Crystal Labs ties in that we're the scope 3 of the scope 3. And we're predominantly focusing with ranchers and crop farmers in Western Canada at the moment, so not dairy.
Great. Alejandro, did you have something?
Yes, on my end, just a clarification. I know that most of you scheduled this participation to end at 3:15. I see that there's still possibility for many questions, but it will depend on you if you want to stay longer. I stay longer on the platform, the time that we can stay here. This is also an open discussion, like Evgeny, Jean, feel free to jump on questions. I know that you follow up on the different pitches that were given. We're trying here just to brainstorm about what the solutions can do, how they can work together or separate, and so on and so forth. If you have questions, feel free to jump.
So I'll go very quickly. First, thanks for having me. And I had some technical difficulties in getting on, but I was able to hear some of the pitches. And the two questions that are in my mind, and I think that one of them actually was in the poll, it is: are we talking really about offsets, or are we talking really about reduction? Because these are two completely different things. And this is one, and you guys talked about scope 3 and all these chain of things. And I think that dairy in general is just like a lot of other industries, is a very complex supply chain. And how these solutions that you have, which are solving individual parts of the production, can be put together in that complex supply chain that starts with the farm, goes to the producer, and being able to expose it directly to the consumers. Because I thought we also heard Steve talking about some of the financial solutions that have to be, or the incentives that have to be installed in order to be able to make everybody in that chain contribute positively to the carbon reduction.
So if I could react and then let the others jump in, from Lactalis Canada's perspective, it's more important to do reductions than offsets. And if we look at the regulatory environment, this is exactly part of the challenge that we cannot directly incentivize practice changes at the farm level. So we have to partner with the milk boards and the DFC. And one of the things that we hope to come out of a partnership with one of you guys or a better data platform is to then present to the DFC, here are our ambitions as Lactalis Canada, the processor. Here's the platform we would like to use to continue tracking our progress. And we're most interested in reductions where possible. So first and foremost, and then offsets if they make sense. You guys are behind the US in terms of creating a market for it's all happening right now, right? Like it's in the process of being developed, but there isn't a stable market for ecosystem services in Canada at the moment. So ideally we'll be prepared to support our dairy supply, but it has to be, according to the regulatory environment, in partnership with the Canadian government. So it's a very good, complicated question, but hopefully I answered just the top part, which is that reduction is first and foremost over offsetting.
That implies, first of all, of anything, how to improve the usage of natural resource, especially in the pasture side and the production of the crops itself, because good part of the problems come from the production of the supply of food for the animals, and the second part is all the management in the production itself. So how you keep the animals, how you deal with all the residual process and so on. So it's not only a question of measures and control and monitoring, but it's a question of how you use the data to, for example, change the pasture measurement and management of the farmers, of the growers, the ranchers. That's a whole other conversation. That's why I bring that question about the Voisin method, because I don't find anything else better than that yet. And the literature is pretty good on that. So that's one of the major steps to increase the carbon accumulation on the soils.
Yeah, I think if I can maybe add something there. I think what you really need, Julia, at Lactalis, is really to be able to, first of all, map out the supply chain properly, be able to quantify and measure where the emissions are coming from, and be able to, after that, take a 20-80 approach, saying we know most of our emissions come from here. Here's the different specific areas. Here's why the emissions are being caused. Here's how we're planning to monitor them. Once you've been able to establish all that, you'll be able to see how you can follow the progress, and then make specific targets and say, okay, here's where it's mostly coming from. Here's what you can do about that, and so on.
Yeah, I can say that we are pretty much there. We know that the milk supply is going to be the lowest hanging fruit for impacting that full pie of carbon emissions. And then the challenge is to get better, more specific data to understand what are the levers we can pull. So if we know that producers in the West are more efficient at their production practices, so we also know at the farm level, it's feed and manure handling that accounts for the majority. So those are the two kind of big buckets that we're targeting. We just currently don't have a way of directly influencing them, but what we can do is better understand the regional data so that we can potentially source from a better producer to overall reduce our emissions, because we're getting from the producers that do the best work for us. We can't move forward after we have a good set of information. There's no way for us to move forward without holding hands with the Canadian government on this, but we know that already, and that's already kind of parallel in progress. And I do see that it is 1 minute from 3:15 on my clock, and I personally cannot stay longer. But if there's some more closing comments, I will.
Yes, thank you very much, Julia, for the time that you devoted to this activity. Everybody else, if you want to stay, you're feel welcome to stay. I'll follow up with all of you and with Julia as well, and John. John, not sure if you're staying or do you have time to stay or something. Evgeny, it's the same thing, but feel free. I'll stay here around just for a few minutes more. If you decide to stay here, I'm available to stay here also to continue the conversation. Otherwise, we can just wrap it up. That's Julia.
I would be happy to keep in touch with each and every one of you to take the conversation just a bit farther since we're out of time today. But thank you very, very much for your presentation. Super informative. Really appreciate your perspectives and expertise.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. John, thank you very much for staying. And beginning the same thing.
So I John Dilley from Lactalis Canada as well. Maybe you weren't, saw me on the other side of the platform. This is really Julia's project, so she's the lead in running this. I was interesting when I was listening to it to try and understand her perception of some things and of looking at Canada from an outside perspective and being based out of the US and having the American experience, but looking at how we will be forming partnerships, of course, with this. And so what we want to do is take this forward go with something in hand to the dairy farmers boards, the milk boards, and have something in hand and have so at least something to start a conversation with about and saying, here's something that we're interested in doing. I looked at it and wondered whether or not there's ways to marry it with other aspects of things in the industry that are changing. One is the movement to grass-fed production. So we have a lot of barn production, a lot of production from feed, and people have said, well, feed is 30% of the emissions, but there's a huge push to move to grass-fed. Buttergate in Canada, of course, would be part of some of that maybe comes to light, and wondering how this would mirror with that in the sense that pasture regulation is probably going to be more important, especially if there's more movement to grass-fed and the quality and product that we want out of the field, right? So as we move forward, so it was my curiosity from that perspective. I'm looking at it more of an innovative product perspective and looking at what we can get out of it from that way, and it was just interesting perspective. I don't know whether anybody else has any comment with respect to that or not.
Yeah,
actually, that was one of the questions that I was going to ask, John, because I thought is quite interesting. How do you put this in the bigger context? And one of the things that you mentioned is kind of connected to the circular economy. So the grass-fed and how do you use some of the byproducts and the byproducts of other industries in order to optimize your production or eventually plug your production into other things? That's one thing. And the second is from another perspective. There are similar solutions, not similar, but at least related solutions, which are being built for food traceability, for example. And those are things that are not very different if you think about it, because if you have to expose it to the final consumer, and the final consumer has the decision to incentivize certain behaviors, whether it's about traceability for the purposes of doing sustainable farming and sustainable production, or it's for the understanding the origins and stimulating the local produce, they're kind of converging, at least in my mind, and how one could be leveraged for doing some things on the other is one of the biggest questions in my mind.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. They're overlapping. They're an overlapping demand at this point in time from a consumer perspective, right? And the trust and clarity that must exist on that information that the consumer can draw from it. So that has to be there. It's paramount. So.
Yeah, transparency and trust is something that is even more important every single day. And I see that there's always the need to have an incentive in order to make these things happen. I mean, the solution might be there. Perhaps solutions at times are not there, need to be developed. There's always the need to have an incentive that is going to make this move forward, because otherwise it got stuck just on a paper. John, Evgeny, I think that I didn't introduce you before. Not sure if you knew before each other. I knew that you proved some difficulties to join this conversation. So you didn't hear when I introduced you to the crowd and when I introduced the crowd to you. So just for you to know, Samuel Fournier, he is from a startup based in Montreal. He is the name of his startup is Crystal Labs. I met them like in 2017 or 18 when I was working for the entrepreneurial center of the university. Samuel John Dilly is the vice president of innovation for Lactalis Canada. And Evgeny Lokipudis, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing well your last name, Evgeny. If not, forgive me. He is the CTO of this digital supercluster based in BC.
Okay. Yeah, and the question about traceability is something that I look forward to, because to some extent, we see a lot of different companies, CPG companies, that have some pressure from shareholders and clients to do better. But there's a very fine line between storytelling and data-driven information that we can really prove that we're doing better. And this is one of the use cases we see with information coming from the soil. So as I was mentioning, we're not directly looking at emission from the farm, looking to see exactly how can we quantify these emissions, but we're looking to support growers in making better. So support them, and how can we quantify regenerative practices? How does this improve the bottom line for soil carbon directly in the soil? And this is a direct measure. Are we doing better now? And this is exactly why this is one thing that we're looking also to push and work with CPG companies and say, okay, now we have different metrics that you'll be able to showcase to your shareholders, to your clients, that you are doing better because A, B, and C, not only because you have a green mission. Because nowadays every company have a green mission, but you need to be able to prove this, and with clear activities and clear results. And this needs to be based on outcomes, because too many times we see this based on practices. And if you only base this on practices and you never ground through this information, it's just something that's really, really it's really hard to prove that you're really improving exactly what's going in regards to soil health, in regards to how much carbon are you able to sequester. So this is also one of the ways that we're looking to improve the sustainability of agriculture.
So a question that I have to you guys is, because Alessandro talked about the incentives, but looking from the other side, and I'm not in this business, that's why I'm asking the question, are there organizations that are regulating some portion of this, like the GS1s of the world? Is there anything that actually is getting standardized in that space internationally?
From a traceability perspective, I would say, I don't know whether there's a regulatory approach, there is a GS1 approach, but there's the smart label approach, I think would be the closest one that I could think of right now, that from a standardized perspective, and that is being championed from a consumer products good perspective by the Food, Health and Consumer Products Group here in Canada. So that organization is pushing it through. So pushing the smart label platform at this point in time. But I look at smart label platform as it's just the first step. It's a building block to move from something to something else. If all I want to do is what smart label can offer me now, then it's not offering me anything any more than I could do. But what it is trying to give is that trust, right? And that authenticity of information, and providing some sort of mechanism that allows the consumer to look at things in a standardized way. But to me, it has to be much more than that, than what they're currently offering, to make it attractive for us to come on board. And they're struggling here, I think, in Canada to get it moving. They've been pushing for a number of years. Part of that may be because of all the other regulatory changes that are happening with food and food packaging, and the impact of those things are. We have 3,000 SKUs, so individual units that we sell at store level, and it might take us $5,000 to $6,000 to change a SKU from a package perspective, and that's just prints and so forth. So you can see you're looking at a few $1 million just to do some small change, and if it's a major change, we may be looking at $5 or $6 million. So we're being driven from a governmental regulatory perspective to make changes. So people are leery to make packaging changes right now unless there's a real push to do so. And so maybe that's part of the reason that Smart Label hasn't run so quickly here in Canada. But there are a number of companies that are looking at that technology, and I know the FHCP is really pushing for that to move forward. So they're sort of doing that. GS1 does have some sort of governance on how things will be presented, but to me, I'm looking at Smart Label as still, yes, it gives us an authenticity bit to it, but then still it's open from there. Right? You can still put in there whatever you want. It still has to be trustworthy in some sort of sense. And so how do you build that trust around that? That's important. And I'm just thinking about even getting the information, and I mean this project here that Julie's discussing is quite a project, and I mean there's no way around not being a partner with the dairy boards on these and through it, because we do deal with a pooled milk supply here in Canada. So I do not, like in the US or in Europe, know which farm I am going to get my milk from on any given day. Right? So today that truck rolls in and it might come from this neighborhood, but it can also come from Ottawa into the London. I live in London, Ontario. So it could be running in from London because it's a pooled system, and where the demand is, we run on a demand-based system. So where the demand is, they'll ship. And different milks have different priorities. Fluid milk has the highest. So if fluid milk, drinking milk is up, then that's where things are going. So there's a balancing. I'm not saying it happens every day, but there's a balancing of things. So it makes it more difficult for us. But understanding areas specifically as opposed to national averages will certainly help us as we go forward. And when we move to something like grass-fed, which is very specific and very farm, so those are different programs within the milk pool, we could say with all clarity it comes from a certain farm and has this capability, this and this associated with it. So it'll be interesting to see how we can manipulate this into this to allow it to provide the information that we're looking for.
I have a comment. I don't want to put anyone under the spot. I'm just checking on the chat box, and I'm just noticed that we have someone who might have like something to tell. Philip Razakanokola. I am hoping I pronounced it well your last name. If you want to join us, please send us a request to join in the conversation. As I'm checking on his profile, he's sustainability co-lead for the AgroPur cooperative, which is very related to this industry. So perhaps he wants to join us, or if anyone else there.
And I am good for 4 minutes. So then I do have to leave at
yes.
at 3:30. So
okay, so let me just join Philip.
And John, let me just ask you a question. Because you said that you're working with pools, so you have some systems or some mechanisms to be able to manage this pool in some form. So are these not, to a certain extent, reusable in some of the contexts that we're talking about?
I didn't get the context of the first part of your question. It was dead for me on my end, so I didn't hear.
So you said that your milk is coming from different sources and is based on demand. So practically you have some systems to be able to track supply and demand, and those might be connected to that whole traceability we're talking about, and also for the
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, from a farm perspective, what I probably should rephrase, and Philip could explain much better than probably I can. But when I say I don't know, I do know every day traceability on everything. So down to every load. So we test every load. We know every load. We know every farmer if we really wanted to go get the information. So we know every drop of milk. What I'm saying is it's not consistent day to day always. Right? So this can come from a different place, from a different place, from a different place. So, but at any given point in time, if I really want to know, we can test down to the farm level and what it is. And we know that some of them are local. Even if you're here in London, Ontario, we used to run a dairy plant here, and the farmers used to come in. We used to do their antibiotic testing for them just for free because they wanted to make sure what we were getting was residue free. So. So we knew that, but it can come from different places. It's not consistent, but you're absolutely correct. There are controls, a very good traceability in place.
Interesting.
And just for example, there's extra traceability that comes for organic milk, for example, and that has dedicated routes sometimes. The link that I put in the chat here was to answer one of the questions on trying to understand where the emissions came from at the farm level. It's a study that was made in 2018 and that John was referring to in the opening panel. So there is some knowledge there, but as John said, it's not detailed enough, and which varies very much, from our American practices where we have direct links at the farm. So the challenges are different in Canada than in the US.
But sorry, guys, I do have to go. I was at 3:30 departure. It was nice meeting you, Philip. Maybe we'll be discussing again, so I will look you up. great. I really enjoyed the conversations that we've had here and in the panel discussion, and I look forward to, as Julia had said, following up with everybody in here to see where we can go with this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Problem that we
everyone.
need to address.
I'll
Take
make
care.
sure that you stay connected.
We will. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Kenny, Philip, Samuel, feel free to, we can
Yeah.
continue talking if you want. If Kenny, I don't know if you, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, I have to go as well. I have to go as well, Alejandro. So,
Samuel, thank you very much for everything.
yeah, thanks for the time. Bye-bye.
We'll continue
you.
talking a little bit after if you want. We'll get in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam.
Thank you, everybody. Whoever else is still looking at the screen, following the conversation. I'm hoping that you enjoy, Kenny, despite the challenges that we had. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and then this is over. Thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you in the next Congratulations.